Welcome to Most. Přijďte fandit a držet palce nejenom mě, ale celému českému týmu Bagíra.
Hi, my name is Norbert Kish and here we are in Most in the Czech Republic and the second half of the season is about to start. Úgyhogy gyertek, nézzétek az élő közvetítést és szurkoljatok nekem. Sziasztok!
Hallo liebe Fans, wir sind zurück aus der Sommerpause hier in Most. Drückt mir alle die Daumen, damit wir die bestmöglichen Punkte hier holen können, damit wir nach dem Wochenende wieder Zweiter sind.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Autodrom Most. Welcome to the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship and Sunday, the second day of our race weekend here. A bit of a revival for the championship this after what feels like a very long summer break after the Nürburgring. It is great to be back once again. We had an awesome day's racing yesterday, frantic qualifying session with red flags and delays as well, actually, and plenty of action going on during the day. One of the main talking points overnight was one of the men you just saw there. Sasha Lenz was in a very fierce battle yesterday with Teo Calve during that second race, a race which Teo Calve unfortunately would only complete with, well, one tyre less on his truck than planned. A lot of damage. There is Sasha Lenz. Sasha was actually given a penalty yesterday afternoon after the race. It was basically a drive-through penalty converted to 30 seconds, which put him outside of the points and down in for that second race yesterday. It was great to see another win for British driver Jamie Anderson after a very intense finale with him and Lucas Hahn having a fantastic battle as well. There was contact in the final couple of corners, but there was no further action taken, and both Lucas and Jamie knew that it was just hard racing and there was no malice or intent there from Jamie to cause said contact. There he is, actually, number 33, the only right-hand drive truck in the field, the Anderson Commercials MAN. He's got Teo Calve just behind him, who's going to be hoping for quite a bit more today. Both of them had one win each in the Promoters' Cup yesterday. That was Teo's 6th victory of the season in the category and Jamie's 8th. So Jamie will be right with him now, or if not, actually ahead of him on championship points. I'll just grab that and have a quick look right now. But it's been a really interesting weekend so far. This circuit is a proper challenge for these drivers. It's very narrow, very windy, and it can take a lot of effort to put a lap together here because at the end of the day, there's so many corners that flow into others that you have to get each and every one of them right. And the gap, I can tell you, is actually 2 points still between Teo Calve and Jamie Anderson. It was 2 points coming into this. They started the weekend on 168 and 166 points respectively. They are now on 193 and 191 respectively. So it is all still to play for. But in terms of the overall championship, Norbert Kish has extended his advantage at the very top of the pile, and he is going to be hard to beat from this point forward. We still have 3 race meetings left to go this year. Next weekend, we will be in Belgium at the wonderful Zolder. I'll be commentating on that one remotely as well as I am this weekend. And then we only have 2 weeks off, really. And then we go straight to Le Mans. We're going to be racing at the Bugatti circuit. And then we're going to be heading to the wonderful Jarama in Spain near Madrid to complete our season. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful time. 4 race meetings in 5 weeks. And we will crown our champion on the 2nd of October. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of you will maybe anticipate by now that that man at the front there, the number 1 of Norbert Kish, may be crowned champion earlier if he keeps up this incredible form that he's on at the moment. He has 3 titles to his name at the moment, 2014, 15 and 2021. And it looks like he's going to make it a 4th. We just wait now for the red light to go out and for everybody to crack on. And the first qualifying session of the day will get underway. The green light is on at least. There's Jonathan Andre in the number 66 machine running the truck for the rest of the season after the tragic passing of Anthony Janiak. And here they go down towards the first chicane for the first time. A relatively calm start to the day. This is just the sort of installation lap for them just to get used to the conditions. They did have a warm-up session this morning where Norbert Kish was fastest from Sascha Lenz and Jochen Hahn. And then everybody else making their way around. Great to see Antonio Alberthetti back out there, by the way, because he had a massive engine fire yesterday. There was a humongous hole in the side of the block. Something had basically just launched itself out of the side of the engine, caused a very big fire, an oil fire, which quickly went out. And Antonio's quick thinking put the truck pretty much out of harm's way in the gravel. And the team and a lot of other people in the paddock and other teams as well, Anderson Commercials teams, and I believe it was some of the Lion Truck Racing guys as well, were replacing the engine very, very quickly. And someone else that we've got down there is Andreas, who is there with an interview.
Jan Kalivoda is with me. So yesterday it was a exciting day here at the Most circuit. What about your team, the Bagheera team? Are you satisfied with the performance of Adam Blatschko and Theo?
Actually, for us, this weekend is quite extraordinary because we not only race with the trucks, but we also have our driver, our team in the NASCAR series. And of course, it's a home race, so we have a high expectation for our fans, for our friends that come here to visit. And I have to say that after yesterday, we are quite happy because Adam did a very good show, especially in the second race where he managed to, in the last corner, to get to the podium on the second position. Theo did a great job in the race one as well. He won the Promoters Cup. So I think we provided a very good show for the fans, and we could see them and we could hear them.
What are your expectations now for qualifying? Yesterday it went not so good for Adam and Theo. What's possible today?
I have to say it was a quite shock because within all the free practices we were on the top 3 positions all the time. So we were quite satisfied with that, but then we put the new tires and suddenly the expectation was not fulfilled, and hopefully now it's going to be better because we did some changes from yesterday, and we have to climb up because the starting position for the race is really important.
Thank you. And back to you.
Thank you very much, Andy, for the interview. It's always good to hear from members of the teams from all sorts of ranks and get their idea on how everything has gone. We've often seen it as well that some drivers, they'll come in from a session, they'll have qualified third, maybe fourth, and they'll be absolutely distraught about that. They will not be happy about it at all. But it was correct in the way that we were expecting a little bit more from the Bagheera Freightliners yesterday, because they were second and third through both of the free practice sessions. Theo Calve even in second place during free practice 2. So we were expecting them to be right up there on the grid, and they started the first race in fifth, not even in fifth, in 6th and 7th on the grid. We see now Norbert Kish and Jochen Hahn making their way away from us down turns 12 and 13. Fantastic view as they make their way away from us. Look at the speed that they carry through turn 14 there, and then hard onto the brakes to coast it round turn 15 at the right-hander under that gorgeous Orland bridge. Certainly looks the part. Everybody just... They have to have their banker laps on the board just to make sure they've got a time in. And we've got the times coming across the board now. Norbert Kish does a 2:01.526. That's a fantastic initial lap by Norby. A 2:01.902 by Jochen Hahn. Very close between those two. Adam Blatschko goes third with a 2:01.927, only a few thousandths off Jochen Hahn. Alberthetti goes second fastest, just under a quarter of a second off Norbert Kish. Sascha Lenz has gone down in 6th place, 2:02.251 for him, ahead of Steffi Halm. She's going to be hoping for a much better day today, is Steffi Halm. A lot of contact and incidents for Steffi yesterday. Made it a very, very difficult day at the office. One that was very character building, we'd say. And now you can see our front runners on a bit of a cool down lap now. What will often happen is that the drivers at the top end of the order will put a lap in. If they're happy with it, then they will just go and sit in the pit lane for the majority of the session. And anyone that's near the sort of outer fringes of the top 10 or outside of said top 10 will continue to put laps in and try and get themselves into Superpole. Let's not forget, this session has 10 drivers advancing into Superpole. So anybody that does not qualify inside the top 10 here will be given their grid position. And that will be that. So anyone 11th down. And then we have a Superpole session to rearrange the top 10 that made it through. So we have a bit of an interesting dynamic to our qualifying sessions. Antonio Alberthetti, though, doing a 2:01.759. That's a fantastic lap. The previous lap record around Most in the European Truck Racing Championship was a 2:01.340. That was set way back in 2009 by David Vesecki. But Norbert Kish broke that yesterday in Superpole 1 with a 2:01.116. Inevitably putting that gorgeous red MAN on pole position. Hello to everybody watching, wherever you may be joining us today, whether it be across YouTube or Facebook, and wherever you are in the world. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful morning. Looking forward to a lot more action, just like we had yesterday over today's races. There is Sasha Lenz. He's not going to be too happy with 5th place, especially as he's nearly 3/4 of a second off Norbert Kish, actually. He may feel quite safe, though, in 5th position. There is a bit of a gap back from Teo Calve in 7th to Lucas Hahn in 8th position. I think Jamie Anderson might have had a time deleted. Yes, he has, actually. Shane Brereton was under investigation for a penalty marker. Jamie Anderson comes into the pits, actually, maybe not knowing that his lap's been deleted. They do have radios, though. They do speak to the teams. There is Stefan Fast, number 24. He had a bit of an issue yesterday, to say the least. Tried to make a move on the left-hand side of Steffi Helm out of turn 1. Got a little tap from behind, and that put him over the left rear corner of her truck. And the two of them got wedged together. The Scania looking good at the moment, but in terms of position, unfortunately not. He is down in 12th place, 10 seconds off, but I have a feeling, as I'm sure you all will as well, that that is not a relevant and full-on lap time. Look at the way that they move as they go through turns 8, 9 and 10. This section of the circuit is so tricky because through turns 5, 6 and 7 you're slowing down and then re-accelerating on the way out of the chicane. It's a double right-hander, which becomes turn 8. Then you've got to flick the weight left to turn 9 and then get it stopped for a right-hand hairpin at turn 10. It's an absolute nightmare part of the course. Love watching them make their way down turns 15 and 16. It's such an elegant shot as they make their way down the hill. And Stefan Fast flying through the kink at turn 18. He's got Lucas Hahn behind him there. You could also see Shane Brereton. Shane didn't have the most exciting of days yesterday. He was very under the radar, I must admit. He finished 10th in the first race. And then in the second race of the day, he moved up to 6th position after Sasha Lenz's penalty. So he got some decent points. He got a podium in the Promoters' Cup for the Chrome-rated drivers. Now, here's a man that didn't even finish qualifying yesterday. Andrei Kurzim in the number 11 Don't Touch Racing Iveco. He had a steering failure yesterday, went into the barriers quite hard. Didn't look like it initially from when we saw him just parked up, but then when we saw the replays, we realised he'd had quite the big hit along the wall. He was perfectly fine. The truck just needed repairing and he was allowed to race, and he made a day of coming forward through the pack, basically. He had quite a lot of improvement to make during the races, and he pushed hard to try and get those results. He's currently at the bottom of the timing sheets, but again, I believe that may be temporary and not a representative lap that he's done. So we'll keep our eye on him and see what he can put on the board, because 43 seconds off says to me that he's let off the gas a little bit there, to say the least, just to maybe get everything up to temperature, use it as a bit of an installation lap. As he now makes his way through turn 16. Long left-hander. Feels never-ending as, oh, Stefan Faas. Now I could hear, oh, we've gone red flag instantly on this one. Red flagged qualifying for the second day in succession. Now, what has happened to Stefan there? I was saying yesterday, he's a man with absolutely zero luck. I could hear the beeping as a truck was reversing. Now, these trucks are required in the regulations to have that beeping alert and that siren when they are reversing, much like all other trucks do. And Stefan has parked on the outside of turn 10. Now, there is fluid there. However, that, to me, I think is just fluid from the brakes. These trucks have water jets that cool the brakes down. They try and keep them around 450 degrees Celsius. Sometimes when they have been spraying them and they come to a stop, you will see a few little pools of water and just some trickles of where they've been. And Stefan has turned the engine off. And he will now be getting out of the vehicle, and that will be his qualifying session done, I assume. That's a real shame. Well, I'm sure in one way or another we will find out what happened, but that is not good for the Scania driver. Awesome, striking livery on that machine as well. As I said yesterday, the Tank Pool 24 guys are a fantastic laugh. Great bunch. Stefan's a real character. But he's just a man that has no luck whatsoever. He's communicating with the marshals. Whether he's looking to see if something is broken or whether they want it moving or how they're going to go about moving it, because there's many ways that you can move these trucks. A lot of points that you can latch things onto. Of course, they're very sturdy, and we know that sometimes they might need quite the recovery. As we saw yesterday, our massive blue Scania recovery truck was on hand on many occasions. Certainly got our money's worth out of it yesterday. I think we may be seeing it yet again. Although we get the less glamorous green machine, but still, it's going to do the job with that huge hydraulic arm on the top. I think maybe they're just going to lift the front end and bring him away. Not a clue what's happened, though. Obviously, we can't see the damage, if there is any, on this side. The truck's engine was still running, so I'm wondering whether maybe the front left's just gone down. I mean, it looks like it's just flat anyway. It doesn't seem like it's leaning down on one side, like a tyre has gone down or anything. But we are under red flag conditions, and apparently, thank you to Dominic. Dominic has messaged me and explained that it is an electrical issue for Stefan Faas. And he had no option other than to pull the truck over to one side. He's done it in a safe space. You know, there's that little service road to the side of turn 10 in case drivers run wide. It's something they have to drive around just to make sure they don't sort of cut across the apex of the corner. But at the end of the day, regardless of whether that's in a safer location than parking it on the apex, the session still has to be stopped, unfortunately. Stefan Faas has been around the championship for only a couple of years now. 2022 is his 5th year in the championship. He made his debut in 2017, raced with us until 2018, and then he had a couple of years off, came back in 2020, and has been with us since. But all the time, just trying to improve his look more than anything. He's raced some interesting machines in the past, actually. He was the 2007 Seat Leon Langstrecken Challenge champion, way back in 2007. And he's a double KTM Crossbow champion in 2016 and 17. So if you compare the three, you go from a Seat Leon to a KTM Crossbow to a Scania. That's quite the career. The versatility that our drivers have on the grid. And you'll see now the front end just gets lifted away. Now these trucks are about 5.3 tons, I think is the minimum weight, 5,350 kilos. And it just shows you how effortlessly that can be lifted if you've got the right point from one of these recovery vehicles. It's very impressive. And they're now just going to try and slowly maneuver the Scania away. Over 3 tons of that 5-ton weight, by the way, has to be measured over the front axle as part of the regulations, just to make sure that the weight is distributed in a way that keeps the competition fair. Because, of course, with the cab over the front end as well, teams and drivers could find many a way to try and shift more weight to the rear and keep it balanced. But it's part of the reason why these things are so good at drifting. You'll see a lot of the time at the end of races that the drivers will kick the back end and vary. It's awesome to watch these things drift. I remember a particularly impressive display by Andre Kurzim and Norbert Kish partway through last season when we were at Le Mans. It was raining a hell of a lot, and the two of them were flinging their trucks sideways in celebration of their respective victories in each of the races. And hats off to our marshals and the crews down there for all the hard work they're putting in. A lot of marshal work is voluntary, and we are very happy to have them, because without them we would not be able to go racing in the way that we do. And it won't be long now until we get things back underway. We've got about 4 to 5 minutes apparently before the restart. It's an approximate time though, about 10:23 local time. And then we'll get the green light just to make sure everything's all safe. There's nothing on the circuit. And of course, Stefan's truck is way out of the way and not in a place where it could be struck by other machines. And of course, part of the recovery operation is getting the safety equipment and recovery vehicles back in a place where they can, of course, be called upon again. I've seen a number of occasions in motorsport before where something like this was happening. You know, a recovery vehicle was moving one of the racing cars off the circuit, and there were people crying out for the restart, like, come on, let's get this underway now, let's get going, the vehicle's off the track, what are you waiting for? But they need to make sure that that recovery vehicle, if it's needed again, is on hand and also prepared. So we need to make sure every element of this is all ready to go, and then we can get underway once more. As dramatically creeping out of shot is Stefan Faast's number 24, Tankpool 24, Scania. The fans are out in force again this morning. They're all still making their way to the circuit as well. They are flooding in. Fantastic to see so many of them. Last time we were here, there were nowhere near quite the same number, unfortunately, due to the COVID pandemic. But this season, we have had some fantastic and massive crowds. Thinking back to the ADAC International Truck Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, there was thousands and thousands of people there. It was awesome. Great to be a part of that paddock as well. You may be potentially seeing me in the paddocks on the live streams and the broadcasts at Le Mans and Harama as well to end the season. I'm going to be there in person. Whether I'll be on camera or not is down to whether I've done my hair or not that day, I guess. But we now just wait for everything to be ticked off and for everything to be complete with that recovery of Stefan Fast's machine. You can see some of the branding there. We have Euro NASCAR with us this weekend. My friend Dane Baird is commentating on their races over the course of the weekend. I apologised to him yesterday. Well, I kind of apologised to him. I delay to one of their races. But I believe he told me yesterday that they had 5 safety cars in one of theirs. And that turns 1 and 2 were a bit of an issue. It was the same with us as well. There were multiple incidents with turns 1 and 2 being the location. You can see some of the grid girls there getting their pictures taken in front of Jochen Hahn's Iveco, or behind Jochen Hahn's Iveco. Some of them, I imagine, needed quite a lengthy shower after yesterday because they got absolutely drenched in champagne. A number of the drivers often try to prank any of the grid girls that are on the podium, and they just catch them off guard completely when the champagne comes out. Some of them have clearly been doing the job a bit longer and know exactly when to when to run for cover as soon as the announcer or any commentators bring up champagne. But you can see everybody, driver-wise anyway, still in their trucks ready to go. Waiting to get the action back underway. You can see just about the huge amount of fans on the right-hand side. There's one of the Norbert Kish flags. He's got some very loyal supporters, has Norbert Kish, and he's got a lot of them. And there is the Tank Pool 24 team, just contrary to popular belief, that's not him in person on the left. He's going to make his way back down to the paddock now then, and they're going to get working on whatever the fault is. Now, obviously with it being an electrical fault, it's a nightmare to find and diagnose a lot of the time, because the problem with electricity is often you can't see it. Anyway, we go green again. Jamie Anderson is the first machine back out on track. He's also driving an MAN. Then we have Jonathan Andre, Shane Brereton, Andre Kurzim next up in the number 11. Now, we won't have everybody coming back out on track, of course, as I mentioned earlier on. If the drivers are near the outer fringes of the top 10 or outside of the top 10, they will continue to try and put a better lap on the board and get themselves into Super Pole. And now we see Shane Brereton chasing down Jonathan Andre. About 7.5 minutes left to go in the session. And, well, Shane is not wasting any time. He's getting on with this. Wants to try and get as many laps in as possible. Wants to get in front of Jonathan. Now, slipstreaming isn't really something that we do here in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. The drivers are limited or governed to 100 miles an hour, 160 kilometers an hour in a straight line. And if they do exceed that for a certain amount of time, then they do get an overspeeding penalty. They will get a warning for it, but then they will get given penalties if they continue to overdo it. So if you sit in the slipstream of the truck in front, yeah, it might give you a little bit more acceleration at a certain point, but at the end of the day, you might overstep the mark, go over 100 miles an hour, and all you're going to be doing is heating up your engine as well, because, of course, you will have just hot air going into the front of the machine, as opposed to the clean, cool air that you want going in. So Jamie Anderson round the final corner, gets his foot down onto a fast lap. He flies down the straight, down the hill. And then back up towards the chicane, over that slight crest, and then it levels out. You've got a long time to think about the braking zone here. It's almost like Monza. You've got this ridiculously long straight and then a very tight chicane at the start of the lap, where a run out of the first corner to a long, sweeping, flowing turn is oh so important. Lucas Hahn is out there on track as well, actually. He's 9th at the moment, obviously feeling slightly under threat, but he's nearly a clear second ahead of Shane Brayton. Jamie Anderson does not have a fast lap on the board yet, though. His other one got deleted for track limits. So the man that won race 2 yesterday, hoping for more of it. Look at the shudder from that front right wheel there. You could see it moving around a hell of a lot as he slammed on the brakes. You can hear it skipping along the surface, but look at the way they turn and accelerate out of turns 10, 11, through 12. The direction change there is frightening for something of that size. And Jamie has had a fantastic turnaround with his season. He had no luck last year, but he's had a great turnaround of his season. And they had an engine replacement earlier in the season that really helped them out as well. It seems like the old engine they were using had just run its course, unfortunately, and they'd lost a lot of performance from it. And now he's back to exactly how he wants it. He's up there competing for top 5s most of the time. I mean, he qualified 5th yesterday ahead of Lachko. And he's in the fight for the Promoters' Cup, previously known, of course, as the Goodyear Cup. He's got his countryman Shane Brayton behind him. Good to see Shane back on the podium yesterday. All the team down there at the Apollo Tyres TOR truck racing team. They've got their branding on just about anything as well. If you want any decent purple merch, then honestly, they'll find anything that they can get for you. They're fantastic people. Steve Miller as well. He's a real star. He's a proper shining light around the paddock. Really funny guy. Always a good laugh. And there we see Jonathan Andre across the line. Jamie Anderson's time has put him in 8th position. He's ahead of Jose Rodriguez, but he's behind Teo Calve, another one of the Promoters' Cup drivers. Teo currently 7th. Jonathan Andre's time last time round was a 2:18.7, so clearly wasn't his fastest lap. He's done a 2:04.8 as his quickest time. 8 tenths off Stefan Fast, who will no longer be putting times on the board. Shane Brayton was just 2 tenths off his best time on that last qualifying lap. And now we see the number 66 Lion Truck Racing Machine, the MAN of Jonathan Andre. In its very striking colour scheme, you can never miss it. Whenever you see any shots of the entire field or the grid, whenever this truck is involved, it's always the one that stands out, as you can imagine. In that day glow yellow, look at the acceleration down here. It's a very exciting camera angle. There is a slight curvature to the left there that is classed as turn 14, but it just looks awesome as they power their way towards us and or past us. And you could see Stefan Fast's truck being recovered there, actually. Just at the bottom of the shot. Hopefully they can get whatever problem they've had sorted and get it fixed. And oh, I feel like Jonathan Andre may have just caught up with Shane Brayton a bit quicker than intended there, actually. And he may feel a little bit impeded. Now, Shane wants to get on with the lap as well. So what's the situation going to be here? Jonathan moves over to the right. Shane went back over to the left there. And this would be their final lap of the session if it was going to be the one. That was Lucas Hahn just coming out of turns 1 and 2. A man that's had his first overall victory in the championship this season, especially at the Nürburgring as well, at the International ADAC Truck Grand Prix for Iveco. It was a very emotional win with his father sharing the circuit with him. And a real one-truck family moment that I will never forget. Lucas is such a lovely young man, such a character, always smiling, always having a laugh, enjoying what he's doing. And I tell you, he's an absolute unit as well. He's built like an absolute tank, is Lucas Hahn. Gorgeous looking machine, the racing version of the Iveco S-Way. You can see on the left-hand side there on the graphic, the top 10 qualifiers are the ones that are currently going through into Superpole. So only Lucas Hahn out of that top 10 is still on the circuit. He needs to put in a fast time just to confirm himself as a definite man on that list, just in case Andre Kurzim manages to improve, or even Shane Brereton and Jonathan Andre. Lucas now into turn 20. 21 corners on this track, 4.2 kilometres. Resurfaced at the start of 2022. Lucas nice and tidy out of the final corner. He goes for the line, and the lap time for Lucas Hahn is a 2:02.975, so he does improve. He's only a couple of tenths of a second off Jamie Anderson. Is that going to be enough to keep him in, though? Because Andre Kurzim is going to be across the line shortly. He's in the final sector. Jonathan Andre has crossed the line and has improved with a 2:04.367. We wait to see what Kurzim does lap time-wise. It's a 2:03.5 for Kurzim, so no improvement. That means that Lucas Hahn gets through into Superpole unless Shane Brereton has something to say about it. His best is a 2:04.021. What's he going to put on the board as he comes through? I think he might have actually abandoned the lap, to be honest, and come in the pit, because he was with Jonathan Andre on the track. And yes, Shane Brereton has come into the pit lane. So that means that Lucas Hahn, truck 22, is through into Superpole. The other drivers that have made it through are Norbert Kish, Antonio Alberthetti, Jochen Hahn, Adam Lachko, Sasha Lenz, Steffi Halm, Teo Calve, Jamie Anderson, and Jose Rodriguez. We've got 4 Chrome drivers from the Promoters Cup in there as well. That is Calve, Anderson, Rodriguez, and Hahn. The drivers that did not make it through and will be starting 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th are Andre Kurzim, Shane Brereton, Stefan Fass, and Jonathan Andre, who we see on our screen here. So there will be just a couple of moments for the drivers to make their way back round. And then we will get the Superpole session, the second Superpole session of the weekend, underway. And there is Stefan Fass's number 24 being manoeuvred in. As you can see, they've changed the recovery vehicle that it's on. They've just kept the green snatch vehicle down by the corner. They've transferred it over to this bigger recovery truck. After you. And now they're moving it into the awning, and they can start to diagnose whatever the issue is. Our first race of the day will have the broadcast starting about 10 past 12, just after midday. And then the final race of the weekend, race 4, should be at 4:15 local time. For anyone watching in the UK, that is 10 past 11 for race 3 of the weekend, and 3:15 for race 4 of the weekend. And I, Chaz Draycott, will be with you for all of it and for the rest of the season as well. I shared duties last year with my good friend Jack Werrell over the course of the season due to clashes in the calendar, but from this point, the championship has me and my services for the entirety, and it is honestly a wonderful championship to be a part of. Everyone is so friendly in the paddock. All of the organisers really do spoil me rotten. They make sure that everyone that works with them and for them is all really well looked after. It's a great bunch, great championship, awesome camaraderie as well. And we have Andreas down there in the paddock. He's speaking to Stefan Fass.
Yes, Chaz, Stefan is with me, and we saw he put the truck on the track, and there's no going forward. Stefan, Was ist das Problem? Also warum musstest du stehen bleiben?
Ich konnte nicht mehr lenken. Das war das Problem. Ich bin in die Kurve ein, ich habe ein Knacksen gehört und konnte nicht mehr nach rechts lenken, nur noch nach links. Deshalb bin ich dann da stehen geblieben. Habe versucht noch von der Strecke runter, dass das weitergeht, das Prozedere, aber es hat nicht funktioniert. Dann bin ich stehen geblieben, haben sie mich abgeschleppt.
So eine erste Einschätzung, funktioniert es für Rennen 3, dass ihr den wieder hinbekommt?
Wir versuchen alles.
Okay, alles Gute. Danke, danke. Yes, okay, so Stefan told me that he has an issue with the steering. He can only turn to the left and not to the right, and they hope to fix it for race number 3. So, and back to you, Chess.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Always good to know what's going on down there. And unfortunately for Stefan, he will not be going any further in this one. But we look forward to seeing if he can make it out for the next race, of course. Now, Superpole has the drivers going out in the order that they qualified in, basically, for the first qualifying session. If you finish first, then you're obviously the first truck out of the pit lane. We're just waiting, I believe, for Lucas Hahn to... Actually, no, Lucas has joined the back of it. I think they're just trying to manoeuvre Jamie Anderson into place because he put a time in a bit later in the session than some of the drivers that he is ahead of. So they just have to sort that out as part of the procedure for the session. They'll be moving them around in the pit lane. And then we should be all good to go. Fantastic view over here from Moss, that massive hillside towering over it in the background. It's a very industrial area as well. You can often see a lot of the chimneys in the background and the factories working away. You can see all of the fans with a fantastic viewpoint there on the rooftop.
There's a charger if you want to charge iPhone.
And we just wait now to see what time they let them go. I'm getting the same information sent to me as yesterday from Race Control. Thank you to Alice, who we've got on board this weekend, sending me as much information as she possibly can. The wonderful Barbara is unfortunately not with us for this weekend, but she'll be back for the rest of the season, as far as I know. We look forward to having her back in the paddock again. And again, I'm very grateful for everybody that sends me messages in from all around the paddock and up and down the pit lane whenever I'm not there in person. Like I said, there's a fantastic team of people and they all make sure I'm very well looked after. And even team members as well and friends that I've made within the paddock all send me whatever they can, whenever they can. So everybody making their way out onto the circuit right now. And it's Norbert Kirsch and Antonio Alberthetti, the first two drivers out there. Antonio, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. He's got a glistening career, has Antonio. He's been in the championship for 25 years. He had a year off in 2016. He's got 3 titles to his name, 2005, 6 and 10. He's a Spanish Formula Renault champion. He's a Spanish touring car champion from the 90s. And in the 90s alone in CET in Spain, he was a factory driver for Fiat, BMW and Opel during the 1990s. He's an absolute star, is Antonio, and he's a lovely bloke as well. He's a really good laugh. I was actually commentating at Jarama for a different championship earlier in the year, and I was just walking along the paddock, and he instantly recognised me, and we had a good chat and had a good laugh. And his son was driving in the Copa Saxo 8-valve as well, and it was just awesome to see him. Really awesome to see him, especially when it's outside of the usual championship, you know, when it's not to do with the trucks and you still see somebody like that. It's part of another event. It's just great. Really great. And I felt very honoured that he recognised me as well, actually, on the spot. But they're the sort of relationships and friendships that you can build up in paddocks like this. You know, we've got an amazing group of people all racing with us in this series. There's not one single person that is sort of out of place or anything on this grid. It's always nice when you get a close-knit group of people. And as you heard yesterday, you know, Jamie at the last corner, which decided the winner of the race, you know, that in a lot of circumstances would be a real argument starter, to be honest with you. But with how it went yesterday, Jamie and Lucas were both saying that, you know, it's fine. It's just hard racing. You know, they all get on. Jamie said he apologized to him. Just a little bit of and some all it was. So Adam Lachko there we see crossing the line in the Bagheera ZM Racing Freightliner. Now Norbert Kish has gone straight on. I'm not sure whether that's just an honest mistake from Norby and he's just pushing a little bit too hard on the brakes, but he's gone straight on at turn 1 and he is continuing. Yes, yeah, he's continuing just fine. Looked like there was a little bit of smoke left behind as he went through those tyres, but I think maybe it might have just been a little bit of dust that was kicked up. It's quite a dusty circuit, is Most. Nothing on the Slovakia ring where we were a few months back. Flipping heck. It was like being in the Sahara Desert with some of the dust that was kicked up from that. Like a sandstorm. But hopefully for Norby, there is no further problems. It was just a little mistake into turn 1. I'm sure everybody else will be hoping that there probably was an issue with the truck. Not that they would wish that on him. Like I say, it's a very close-knit group of people. They all want the best and want good racing with each other, but for competition's sake, I'm sure a lot of them would love to see a chance to try and beat Norby in the format of which he's so good at dominating. I mean, he's got 8 pole positions this season from 9 qualifying sessions. He's got 10 race victories. And the only other actually within is Jamie Anderson. Jamie Anderson has 3 race wins this season. And you've got Jochen Hahn, Sasha Lenz, Adam Lachko, Antonio Alberthetti, all with 1 race win. Jamie Anderson has 3. But yeah, 10 race wins to Norbert Kish, and the next person in the championship has 1. Just shows you how dominant he is. He's so good at just putting it on pole position and driving away at the front of the pack in the first race of each day. Let's see if that is going to change. 2:02.3 for Antonio Alberthetti. That's not as quick as he would have been hoping for. He did a 2:01.5 earlier on. 2:01.7 on the board for Jochen Hahn. He goes fastest. 2:02.2 for Adam Lachko, who you see there in the number 55 Bagheera ZM Racing Freightliner. 2:01.475 for Sasha Lenz puts him on provisional pole position. Steffi Halm goes 5th, gets demoted a position by Teo Calve, who is the fastest in the Promoters Cup. Another one of these Bagheera ZM Racing Freightliners. Gorgeous looking race machine. And of course, it's their home race for the team, effectively. And for Adam Lachko. So it's an important event for them. Jamie Anderson has gone 8th fastest with a 2:02.6, 2:03.2 for Lucas Hahn. And I imagine we'll see Norbert Kish on a fast lap any moment now. Jose Rodriguez has gone 7th with a 2:02.588. Now, Norbert Kish has had a slow couple of sectors, of course, for whatever issue he had in turn 1, but I'm not sure if he's come back into the pits or not, you know. Either that or he's waited a long time and left a gap to the drivers in front of him. We see Sasha Lenz here, who's currently the pole sitter. And, there's been a time deleted there for Jochen Hahn, the number 4 machine. 6-time champion Jochen Hahn. He's won titles in 2011, 12, 13, 16, 18 and 19. Now, 2021 was the first time he's finished lower than 3rd in the championship since 2011, in 10 years. That was the first time lower than, wasn't it? He's been in the championship for 23 years as Jochen Hahn. We look here at a driver that's been in it for 10 years. This is Sasha Lenz's 10th campaign, his centenary. And in 2018, just to show his consistency, he was the only driver to score points in every single race in 2018. He's a remarkably consistent driver. He just has the odd issue here and there with either an incident or reliability. He got a penalty yesterday in race 2 because of contact with Teo Calve. Jochen Hahn now on to another fast lap after getting his other one deleted. Look at the way they accelerate out of turns 1 and 2. It's magical, isn't it? 5 tons accelerating that quickly. Mind-blowing. It's a crazy, crazy sport, is truck racing, but that's why we love it. And that is why we love it so much. You can see the weight transfer from the left to the right there. This is turn 9, hard onto the brakes into turn 10, the hairpin. Smooth application of the power. Don't spin up the rears as you change up through the gears. Long sweep to the right for turn 11, then fling it left for turn 12. Clip the curb on the inside. Get it all the way over to the left as far as you can for turn 13. Don't hit that big red sausage curb on the inside. We think that might have been part of the reason that Andre Kurzim had his steering failure in qualifying yesterday. Now, Norbert Kish has gone fastest with a 2:01.389, close to the old lap record, only about 40 thousandths of a second off it. Norbert Kish back on top, but he's only just under a tenth of a second faster than Sascha Lenz. Sascha could very well improve to that effect on this lap, although I say that, he's actually slower than Norbert Kish in both sectors so far. Although now it's updated, he's done a purple sector 1, apologies. Norby did a 31.4 last time round. Sascha Lenz has done a 31.2 in Sector 1. Sector 2 leaves a few tenths on the table, admittedly. He's about 2 tenths off everybody else in Sector 2. Alberthetti crosses the line and goes third, a 2:02.074. Right at the end of the session, Jochen Hahn moves up into third place, 2:01.9 for him. Where is Sascha Lenz in all of this? There he is across the line now. And the time is a 2:01.986 in the end. So he does not improve, unfortunately. So Sascha Lenz will remain in second place. Is anybody going to be able to knock Norbert Kish off the top spot? There is improvements further down the order for Anderson and Rodriguez. They are 1,000th of a second apart. A 2:02.405 for Rodriguez, a 2:02.406 for Jamie Anderson. Unbelievable. 1,000th of a second separating the pair of them. Oh, Steffi Halm looked like she was on a lap for a moment there, and Jochen Hahn had to fling his truck out of the way for a moment. I don't think he expected anybody to be flying through at that pace. But I believe that is the end of the session. Don't think there's anybody else out there to complete another lap now. Maybe Norbert Kish, actually. 2:01.389 at the moment is Norby's current pole time. Is he going to shatter the morale and go even quicker than that? We'll have to wait and see. Team might have radioed in and just said, Lenz hasn't improved. You go on into the pits. Norby's not far off purple times at the moment. Here he is, actually, out of the final corner. Looked like he was at full race pace, to be honest with you. And he is across the line, and no, that is definitely not full racing pace. His last time in the third sector was 1 minute and 21 seconds, so either 2:34.1, so only 33 seconds off pole. But Norbert Kish will take what is going to be his 9th pole position of the season for the 19th race of the season. The races coming up throughout today are rounds 19 and 20 of the championship. We had a few drivers under investigation for penalty markers, but they are both considered as no further action situations, so their times stand. Norbert Kish will be very happy with that. The team will be happy as well. It wasn't the most orthodox way of doing it. I think it was just an honest mistake down into turn one, hard onto the brakes. Like I said before, you've got a long time to get into your own head and really think about what you're going to do when you get to that chicane and dare yourself to brake later and later each time. Adam Lachko starting 5th on the grid after that one. Will be maybe not as happy. Bit better than as it was yesterday, though. 6th to 5th. Still an improvement at the end of the day. Antonio Alberthetti will be starting 4th. That's great to see, especially after the engine issue that they had yesterday. And by issue, I mean massive fire. Great for the team and everyone in the paddock to come together and help to sort out that engine replacement and get them back out on the track. We'll have a look at the results of how that session has panned out then. And we'll give you the rundown of the order so you can see who is going to be where on the grid for later on. Norbert Kish takes another pole position. Antonio Alberthetti apparently moving into 2nd position, with Jochen Hahn next up. Jochen will be starting 3rd on the grid, but it's going to be Sasha Lenz 2nd from Superpole, Jochen Hahn 3rd, and then we're going to have Antonio Alberthetti 4th ahead of Adam Lachko in 5th. So for some reason they've moved around a little bit there. Next up in 6th place will be Steffi Halm, Teo Calve next up, then Jose Rodriguez and Jamie Anderson separated by 1,000th of a second. Amazing stuff across the line. Lucas Hahn is going to round out your top 10. Behind them, we have Andre Kurzim starting on row 6 with Shane Brereton alongside him. Stefan Faas will be 13th and Jonathan Andre will be 14th. Good to see Jonathan continuing to improve as well, though. At the back of the field, he said he was just here this weekend to learn, get used to the truck and improve his times. And at the end of the day, he's only a 10th or 2 now off the back of the pack. So it's better than being a couple of seconds off as he was at the start of the weekend. It's always about improving in these machines. And even if you've done racing before in this sort of discipline, you know, every single truck is different. I spoke to a few drivers that have tested many different trucks and told me some of the characteristics of each of them. And they have said that you can jump in the same model of racing truck, and just dependent on how a team has maintained it and looked after it and what parts they've prioritized over others and worked on with the setup, it can honestly make a truck feel incredibly different from one thing to the next. Obviously, any racing drivers amongst you that are watching will know that as well. It comes to racing cars as well, but obviously with the size and the monstrosity, or well, the monstrous size, I should say, of these machines, they are not monstrosities, they are beautiful. You can imagine that the setup makes a hell of a difference when it comes to things like weight transfer. I mean, there's 5 tons of it to throw from one corner to the next. So a lot of work needs to be done to make sure that the machine can handle that just as well and that it's not too much of a handful for the driver too. There is Sasha Lenz's number 2 machine. He will be starting from P2 for the first of the races this afternoon. Just after 12 p.m. noon local time. We'll be getting our show on the road for that. And for now, the drivers will all go back to their respective awnings, and then we'll get everything fixed and maintained, ready for the first race of the day. It will come around soon enough, I can tell you that for free. I've been at many a race meeting and thought, oh, we've got a few hours now, you know, you can go on a walk around the paddock, speak to a few people, see what's what, and before you know it, you've walked down the paddock, feels like you've walked 100 metres, and suddenly you've got to leg it back to the commentary box because it's time to get the show on the road. You can see that the safety car is out there as well with a couple of officials on the grid ready for whatever the next race of the day may be. And you could see that we were down there with Sasha Lenz just a moment ago. Andy is now down there with him for a quick chat with him.
Sasha, I have a look on the timetable, on the schedule. It's only less than a 10th of a second you lose on Norby Kiss. Where did you lose this 10th of a second?
I don't know, in the second lap I was a little bit faster in sector 1. So, but then I make a small mistake in the corner 2, in the sector 2. So I think I'm lose there the 110, and then I said in the radio, guys, no chance now. I cannot faster. I'm lose too much in the one corner. So, but we are happy. We are on P2, and that's what we want.
You said on Friday you hope that you will be second in the championship. Now the chances are really good because the gap to Jochen in the championship with the points is only, I think, three points.
No, the gap to Jochen's in 15 points. So, but yeah, yesterday in the race 2 I become the penalty. It's live. Now, yeah, today is a new day and I push what I can.
Okay. So, thank you, and back to you, Chess.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Good to hear from Sasha Lenz, and it's interesting to know that these drivers can pick up on certain corners where they think, "Oh no, I've messed that up." We're not having a fast lap here, guys. So he knew when to back out and not destroy the tires for no reason. Because at the end of the day, if you lose a bucket load of time, but you still continue to push on that lap, then you could just be using the tires up and doing it to no avail. You may as well try and cool it down, get things back to how you want them, and then go for another fast lap if you still got the time. Still interesting to see, though, that there is not much of a gap between the top two at the moment. As Sasha rightly pointed out, though, the gap between second and third in the championship is opening up more and more. Jochen Hahn, after a good time at the Nürburgring, got in front of Sasha and has stayed there since and just gradually eked out a small gap over him. And as mentioned, you can join us a little bit later on today for races 3 and 4 of the weekend. We'll have our show on the road from 12:10 local time for race 3 and then 4:15 for race 4. But that's all from Autodrom Most and the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship for now. My name is Chaz Draycott, and I'll see you a bit later on, everybody. Have a good day.